Okay, so we'll get started now. Uh, okay, we've got a lot to cover in tonight's class. So we want to try and get through it as quickly as is feasible. So this evening's topic is lesson 7, how to write a good speech. So we're going to learn how to craft compelling speeches tonight. So welcome to the class. Tonight, like I said, we're going to be exploring the art of speech writing as it applies to public speaking. But before we do that, we'll just spend a minute or two talking about last week. So of course, our subject for last week was the significance of hand gestures and how they help us with effective communication. I remember we had quite a bit of fun last week talking about hand gestures. Yes, Tom.
I'm just raising my hand so that I don't have to do in the future.
No worries. So yeah, we learned a few things about how we can apply certain hand gestures into our speeches. We learned that there were 3 different types of hand gestures. There were descriptive hand gestures. So they're ones where you can use to talk about the size or the shape of things, where you describe objects with your hands. We had the hand gestures where we could actually, describe an item, like for example, if you were holding a baby, or describing an action, like if you were running somewhere. Oof. Who can remember the 3rd type of hand gestures? I'm good, Diana. How are you? Oh no, we're starting this already. More beautiful artwork from my students. Tom, what's the 3rd type of hand gestures?
I am Magnanimous.
Magnanimous. Very good. So we can also.
I am God. I am God. I am God himself.
Oh, bless. I cannot wait to see the scope of your power. Thank you, Tom. Touch it on.
Just listen, and let me tell you. My name is Sunny, but I have not renamed my names.
We'll rename it so I know what to call you.
Okay.
Thank you, Sunny. Okay. So, yeah, so we had, trying to think back now. So yeah, we had descriptive hand gestures that can describe the size or the shape of items. We had the hand gestures that actually describe what the items are. And we could also use hand gestures to indicate the size of things, or to show the height of things, or we could use them to count. And we can also use them to do things like grab attention and pull everybody's attention into us while we're speaking. Oh, goodness. We're going to have to go through this chat at the end of class and save all of these artworks again. Okay, so let's move on. I'll take some questions a little bit later. So the objectives for tonight's lesson, letter A, we're going to learn how to organize the structure of a speech. B, we're going to learn about using persuasive language and rhetorical devices, and I'll explain what they are a bit later. And for letter C, we're going to learn about crafting compelling introductions and conclusions. This class is on at the time it's at because this was the time of the old class that used to be in its position. So we are upholding a tradition, having the class at this time. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to learn about the 3 distinct parts of a speech. The first one is an introduction, which is the beginning of the speech. Then we've got the body, which is the main content of the speech. That's all the important information that you want to get out to your listeners. And finally, we have the conclusion, which is the wrap up of the speech, basically. So we'll talk about all of the different parts of the speeches. So who wants to have a guess at why they think the introduction for a speech is important? Why do we need an introduction? Why don't we just go straight into the body of the speech where we just start talking about the information we want to talk about? Tom, your time has come. You're at the top of the list.
Okay. So the reason is we want to make people know what the topic is. Number one, we want to introduce about the topic. We want to introduce about what we're gonna say. Like we just don't want to make it to we just don't want to go to that topic now because people will be confused. Like hello everyone and hello everyone. So open up to page 15. We're gonna learn AP physics, although we're just beginner physics. That's an example.
Not a bad example at all, Tom. Thank you very much.
Banana.
Okay, Tom, 11 from Vung Tau. Why do you think it's important to have an introduction for a speech?
Because if if I don't have the introduction to the speech, I was just like, this is the speech without introduction. It just go on, and here is what we're going to talk about, blah blah blah, and then this is the introduction. Hello everyone, my name's here and here and here, and then we're going to the main idea. Well, if I went out without the instruction, and there one time I was go, and then the guy who's hear me said, "Hello, Mr. No instruction." It's kind of an unusual habit for him.
Not bad, Tom. Thank you very much. Oop. Okay, so very good guesses by those 2 young men. So they got one of those reasons correct. They both got that reason, which is setting the tone for the speech. So that basically means what they said. It introduces the overall tone for the speech. It provides, sorry, I'm just trying to position my notes so I don't have to crane my head all the time. So where are we here? So yeah, it provides a glimpse of what the audience can expect from the speech. It also gives the speaker a chance to set up their credibility and their authority on the topic that they're speaking about. So basically, it's a chance for you to gain your audience's trust. And it's also a chance for you to prove that you know what you're talking about, give your audience a reason to listen. And the other reason for it is it grabs your audience's attention. So it's a critical moment, so that it's an important moment. So you should begin with a hook, whether it's like an interesting or startling fact or a rhetorical question, maybe even a powerful quote. It just piques your audience's attention and it makes them want to hear your speech more. So very good, guys, very good. Okay, so next we have the body of the speech. So what do we think is something important to consider about the body of the speech? So the main part of the speech that we want to listen to. Oh my gosh. That is a beautiful background you have there, Sunny. I love it. Good job. Okay, so Luna, you're first in line. Why do you think it's important, or what do you think is important about the body of a speech? Or tell me something about the body of a speech.
Well, actually, I didn't lower my hand earlier for that last question.
Ah, no worries. Thank you. Anna, you're next in line. Tell me something about the body of a speech.
Yeah, and the body is so important in speech. If we lack body, our presentation will like not meaningful anymore, and the audience don't know the main idea of that we are going to talk about.
Very
And
good.
if
So,
we just have introduction, the audience just know the topic we are talking about and our name.
oh, very good. So if we didn't have the body of the speech and we just had the introduction and the conclusion, then the audience would only know what we're going to talk about. They wouldn't know all of the important information that we need to tell them. Very good, Anna. Very good. And John, you're next, Mr. Man. Tell me something else about the body of a speech. What do we need to make sure that we do with the body of a speech?
I think you should have the speech prepared. So the body must be good. Like you have the introduction, you have the conclusion, but you don't have the body. It will go totally bananas. Like, hello everyone, my name is John. Today I'm going to talk about blah 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 blah, and then went right into the conclusion. It will the audience will go totally bananas.
I think that's your new catchphrase. Thank you, John. So yes, you're going to find it hard to keep your audience impressed enough to listen if you just go, hello, my name is Michael. Today we're going to talk about the structure of a speech. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye. And we're like, what? I wasted my time investing in this. Very good. So we need the body of the speech to actually have a speech. But the main important thing about the body of a speech is that we need to make sure that it's organized. So a well-structured body is crucial or very important for people to understand our speech and for them to be able to follow along. Each main point should flow logically from the previous one and transitions between sections. So how we change subjects should be smooth. So we want to try and find something that links what we were talking about and what we're about to talk about. Okay. I keep seeing these backgrounds with all of these pictures you've edited. They're absolutely brilliant. And yes, effective organization, make sure that the audience can follow your train of thought. And it also makes sure that they're able to remember what you talk about. Because if you jump from one topic to the next too harsh, too hard, and it's too sudden, the audience needs time to adjust. And by the time they've adjusted, I keep looking at those pictures. By the time they've adjusted, you've already moved on and you've left them behind. So make sure that when you change subjects in your speech, make sure that you do it in a way that makes sense. And finally, let's talk about the conclusion of a speech. Why is the conclusion important? What would happen if we only had the introduction and the body of the speech? Sarah, would you like to have a go at answering that question?
Can you talk again?
Absolutely. So why is it important to have a conclusion for your speech, to have a closing statement?
Like when I talk to you about pets, maybe topic about pet, and I said that I love dog, and because it had long hair, maybe I love it because it's friendly. And if I pause like that and I go down the stair, then maybe the stage, they may be thinking, oh, is that a conclusion? What's she talking about? Is she ending, or is she give up her speech, or maybe she's still speaking? They didn't know. So I need to have a conclusion. Like, I really love pets, and the most pet I love are dogs. What pet do you love? Tell me. So she will say I will say goodbye and go downstairs and maybe thinking that I am talking. Like that, conclusion.
Very, very good. So I don't even think you realized how you just answered that, but you actually gave me two extremely good answers. So the first one was, if you don't have a conclusion for the speech and then you suddenly just walk off, you're going to leave your audience sitting there like, do they have more to say? Was that the end? You're going to leave them really confused. Very good. And the other one was when you said, my favorite pet is a dog. What's your favorite pet? Tell me. That's something called a call to action. And that is where you request something of your audience. Maybe you want some interactivity, you want them to participate. Maybe you want them to go and do something specific, but it's that requesting your audience to do something that can be very powerful. So very, very good answer there. Sunny, why is the conclusion for a speech so important?
I think it's important because if you say a long speech with introduction and body, and the conclusion, you not say everything, the audience will think, oh, that speech is end, but does not have conclusion, reason, and result why you choose that topics.
Very good. So Sunny had a very good answer there by saying that, by talking about displaying the results and the final conclusion, the final comments. That's very good, because the other big reason for a conclusion of a speech is to be able to leave a last final impression. Because if your speech goes from, you say, 5 to 10 minutes long, you're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. And it's going to be very easy for your audience to maybe get distracted or forget something that you've said. So if you deliver the final results, or if you summarize your speech at the very end, it just gives the audience a chance to remember all of the important things you've talked about. So very good answer, guys. That was absolutely great. Now, the next thing we need to talk about is the importance of clear and organized speech structure. So who wants to tell me why they think a logical structure for a speech, like why, if you write a speech and it makes sense and it flows well, why do we think that is better for audience understanding? Victoria.
Sir, can you repeat the question? My audio got glitchy.
Yeah, of course. So why do we think it's important that the structure of a speech makes logical sense, and why will that help the audience understand your speech better?
Well, first, if your speech isn't organized in like a logical way, then your speech would sound really rubbishy and the audience wouldn't even know how you even got to the stage and how and why they'd even be sitting there and listening to you talk. Also, if your speech doesn't make sense and it's all like jumbly around, then they won't understand anything. Like you'd be talking about something else and then suddenly you go, oh my God, I just ate pasta for breakfast. And they'd be like, they'd be like, what? I don't need to know what you ate for breakfast today. Like, I mean, if it had anything to do with the topic, then sure, but no, I don't even like pasta or anything. So yeah, that's why. I did not eat pasta for breakfast. That's a crime.
How could you say that, Victoria? Pasta's the best. Behind pizza, that's like my favorite food. But very good answer there. So the logical structure of a speech helps your audience understand it more. Very well answered. Because if your speech isn't organized well, if your transition through subjects doesn't make sense, then the audience are not going to be able to follow it. They'll lose interest. Although truth be told, if a speaker just randomly said, I had pasta for breakfast, I would become their biggest fan immediately. But yeah, so making sure your speech makes sense. Making sure your speech makes sense is very important. Oh, goodness. So yeah, it is very important because it helps the audience understand and follow along, and they don't have to think too much because they're already about to take in a lot of information. If they have to think about it as well, and they have to connect the logic themselves, you're going to have a very hard time getting them to pay attention. Very well done, guys. Very well done. So, where are we here? So yes, the importance of clear and organized speech structure. We've talked about enhanced understanding. So if it's easy for your audience to follow, they'll be able to pay attention and listen better. And we also talked about engagement and retention, because the more they have to think about it, the more it hurts their brains, the less they want to pay attention to it. So keep it making sense and your audience will want to listen to your speech more. Because you guys know we don't like getting our brains overloaded. We don't like it when our brains hurt. So we're going to do a little bit of a practical exercise now. So can I just get everybody to either grab a pen and a piece of paper? I just saw your name, Victoria. Well done. So yeah, grab a pen and a piece of paper, or open a Word document or a notebook page in your computers, whatever you have on hand. So yes, we can definitely have a debate about should pineapple be on pizza at a later date. We can definitely do something like that. But for now, for the record, I think pineapple should be on pizza. On certain pizzas. But yeah, so I'm going to provide a sample topic, and you know what? I'm actually just going to make that the sample topic. Does pineapple belong on pizza? That is the topic for this little exercise. Oh, bless. I like that, Michael. You just summed it up. Yes. Okay, so the topic for this exercise, does pineapple belong on pizza? So we've already discussed the importance of a well-structured speech. Remember that it helps the audience to understand your speech better, so that so that you don't make them think too much. So make it as simple as possible. And remember the technique, I think we talked about it in a previous lesson. It's called signposting. Make it obvious. So use words to begin your paragraphs like firstly, secondly, or next, or words like that to let the audience know that you're moving on to a new topic or a new subject to do with your speech. So I'm going to guide you guys through the process of outlining a speech with a well-organized structure. So I'm going to give you all of the steps to go through it. And I'll give you a few minutes to do it, but it's something that I want you guys to practice outside of class, because if you practice this, it gets easy now. My goodness, I saw something about a gecko on pizza. I don't want a gecko on pizza. Ooh.
Yes. So what do
No.
you want?
Pineapple on pizza. So the first step. So we've
I
talked about this.
wanna post you something.
Oh my goodness.
wait.
All right. Can I make sure that you guys are just muting your microphones for me, please? Not to unmute unless I've called for an answer, or else we just get lost in conversation. Turtle Burger. Okay, so we've talked about the introduction, the body, and the conclusion, the three major parts of a speech. Next, we need to consider what are the main points that we want to get across in this speech. So I'll add these all into the chat here. Hopefully you guys can keep up with all of these messages that are coming in. So let's have a look-see here. So one is
Teacher, I don't listen to you well. When you said that, what do we need to do about the topic that you give, and I don't hear it clearly. So can you say it again, please?
I can. So what we're going to do, so I've given you the topic, does pineapple belong on pizza? With that topic, we are going to write an outline. We're going to create an outline for a speech and make sure that we organize it and structure it well.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Was that Stella? Okay, so the first thing we need to do is...
Teacher, I have a question, please.
Yes, Diana, what would you like to know?
What's an outline?
Pardon? An outline?
Yes.
So an outline is like, I'm trying to think of another word for it. An outline is kind of like a blueprint or the design of something. So in the case of a speech, rather than writing the whole speech out, you're kind of going to dot point it and say, all right, this is my introduction. These are some notes that I want to make sure I put in my introduction. This is the body of the speech. This is the first paragraph. This is what I want to say. This will be my second paragraph. This is what I want to say. So you're basically just planning out what you want to say in your speech. I do not know why it is so controversial, Ken, but it is absolutely hilarious to tell an Italian person that you love pineapple on pizza because they just freak out like, oh my God, how could you say that? That's disgusting. That's not real pizza. Oh my God. It's hilarious to watch an Italian freak out over that. But yeah, so the first step that we want to do is, where's my comment? So we want to consider the main points that we want our audience to understand from our speech. So write that down, and I'll give you a minute now to take a few notes. Write down some ideas that you want to, write down some ideas that you want to include in your speech about whether you think pineapple belongs on pizza or not. No, Tina, please do this exercise because you're not actually going to write this speech. This is just learning to outline a speech so that it makes it easy for you to write them in the future. Oh my gosh. Never mind pineapple on pizza. We got someone here with banana on pizza. Yuck. Okay.
Can I talk? Can I talk?
Why do you have that picture?
Wait,
Wait, do you have
hang
that
on 1 second. How do I? Where's the
I have
little-
wrote out a small rhyming song that talks about pineapple on pizza.
Pineapple on pizza. Yeah.
Look,
But I hate
pineapple on pizza is a
pizza.
crusty,
I hate
musty, nasty.
pizza.
Yep.
Oh
Look.
my gosh. Anyway,
Pineapple-
let's get back on track, guys. Let's get back on track. So the next step that we want to do, it's gross, Michael. The next step that we want to do once we've thought of our main points, we want to, I'll write it down and then I'll talk about it.
So teacher, are we writing a structure?
Okay, so the next thing we want to do once we've brainstormed a few of our main points is we want to brainstorm, basically just write down on a piece of paper any ideas for supporting details like evidence or examples or stories for each main point we want to write about in our speech. So if you want to talk about it in your speech and you want to convince the audience to believe what you're saying, you need to make sure that you can provide some evidence of that. So whether the evidence is like actual statistics or surveys or studies, or whether it's just a funny story from the last time you had pizza with your family. You need to make sure that you've got some form of evidence or a supporting detail to support your ideas in your speech. Yes, Victoria, you'll want to write supporting details about pineapple. So unfortunately, Tom saying something like, it's true, really, is not enough because where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? Why should the audience believe you?
Because there's one time and me and my cousin took a picture of it.
Oh,
And we do eat the piece, but we leave out the apples and fish.
ew, apples and fish, yuck. All right, hang on a second. I am going to make it so that I need to unmute you. There we go. But yeah, so because I'm getting a lot of crazy messages and a lot of crazy pictures being sent. So yeah, so we need to make sure that we brainstorm these ideas. And that simply means, yeah, just to write down on a piece of paper any ideas that you've got about what could you use as evidence to support your main points. So whether that is, writing down something like, look for surveys about pizza toppings to see whether people actually like pineapple on pizzas, or whether that's tell a funny story about the last time our family had pizza night, or whatever evidence you can think of to use. There are lots of different things you can use as evidence, but as long as you provide some form of evidence about your speech. All right, so I've had enough time to take notes down about that or attempt to do the brainstorm. I'm going to write our next point down. Okay, number 3. Victoria, you're starting to worry me. Are you just spamming turtle pictures on Google or something? Okay. No, so this is just an activity that you can do for yourself. This is more like just teaching yourselves how to prepare a speech. Ken, it is a joke that happened a few weeks ago. I can't even remember it, but it just makes me laugh. Yeah, the next step we want to do is make sure there is a logical flow to your ideas. So you want to organize your main points and your supporting details in an order that makes sense to an audience. So if you read through it and you're having to kind of think about these connections and go, yeah, but like if this happens and like, yeah, kind of, yeah, like that, no, don't reorder it. So you should just be able to read through your speech once you, so you should just be able to read through the notes you've got about your speech at this point, and you should just be able to understand it without thinking about it. So the rule there is basically, if you have to think about how these ideas connect, they're in the wrong order. And that should give you an idea that you need to reorder your speeches. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, Victoria, calm yourself. That's like 25 turtle pictures you've sent me this evening. 26. Okay, so our next, what number was that? You sent me the horse with the lipstick last time. Okay, point number 4. All right, I'm going to write this point down quickly. So, everyone in meeting. So step number 4 is your transitions. I'll take some questions after we get through this bit, guys. And then, yeah, I'll answer a few questions and then we'll move on to the next part. So step 4 is transitions. You want to make sure that the transitions between your main points is smooth and that it makes sense. So a transition is where you make the relationship between the two ideas very apparent. So for example, if I was talking about pineapple on pizza, it would be, I'm trying to think of a good transition. So I could say something like, a good transition would be, for example, topic 1, idea 1 would be pineapple belongs on pizza because pineapple complements the flavor of cheese very well. Now, a bad transition would be pineapple is also great as a dessert because you can fry it up and serve it with sherbet and it's a great sweet and sour dessert. Now, that's a bad transition because I've jumped straight from pineapple being great on pizza because it goes well with cheese to talking about pineapple being a dessert. It's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very disconnected couple of ideas. But if I was to go from the pineapple and cheese idea to saying that pineapple also belongs on pizza because it complements the taste of the tomato sauce on the pizza, that would be a good transition because I'm talking about how the pineapple relates to the 2 ingredients on the pizza. So that's a good transition because the 2 ideas are very interrelated because cheese goes on pizza, so does the tomato sauce base. Does that make sense to everybody? Can't believe I'm giving a lesson in public speaking about pizza. This is great.
It is
Hey,
good.
I send
Michael.
you some of the photos in chat, okay?
Don't worry, I'm going to go through this whole chat before I close this call tonight. And I'm going to save all of these pictures. I love the turtles.
Can you show us?
I will show you them at the end, yes. Okay, so next,
Remember.
logical flow, transition. Okay, so it's 0.5. And 0.5 is the conclusion. So I'm just writing this in a message now because I can't write. Sadly, I'm not good at multitasking. What's this what ha stuff, Olivia? I will get you to speak. Just a moment, Ken.
Your voice so weird.
Who the
Yeah,
hell
there's
has
a lot
their
of
mic turned on?
reverb.
Is it
Yeah,
Michael?
do you use 2 meaning in one time?
Okay, there we go. Problem solved. Aha, try and talk now. So,
Why are you so quiet, Mr. Michael?
typing out this message and then I'll talk about it once I've sent it. Ah. I was waiting for you to send the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, seeing as we're talking about pizza. Okay, so number 5, we need to work on our conclusion. So we need to make sure that our conclusion does 2 things. We need to make sure that it summarizes the main points of your speech so that the audience can remember all of the important facts that you've presented. So during the body of the speech is when we present our evidence and we prove those facts to be correct, or prove those points to be correct. And then at the end, we just want to remind the audience what those points were without the evidence, because we don't want to overwhelm our audience. And then finally, you'll also want to conclude the speech with a powerful statement that encourages the audience to either believe in your ideas or to take a specific type of action. In this instance, maybe you might like to say, so come on guys, let's go and grab a pizza and make sure there's some pineapple on it, or something like that, just to finish your speech off so that the audience remembers what you've spoken about. Italians apparently can. Ken just asked, who in real life would debate about pineapple on pizzas? The answer to that would be Italians. Okay, and the final step . The final step is practice. So you want to, I can't speak German. I don't know why you've got the language set to German. So practice crafting your speeches using this formula, and you'll watch the quality of your speech writing skyrocket. So this is just a really good logical way for you to first write down your ideas, then put them in an order, and then find support. Sorry, write down your ideas for supporting evidence, put them in order, work on your transitions, and just keep practice. Okay, so we've definitely spent enough time on that. Let's move on. So the next thing we want to talk about, we won't go into too much detail about this, but the three persuasive language techniques that we want to really focus on with our speech writing are ethos, pathos, and logos. So we see down there with the bottom point there. So ethos is about building credibility. Pathos is about using emotions in your speech writing. And logos is about using logic. So if we combine all 3 of these techniques are Latin. So if we combine all 3 of these techniques, we can find ourselves writing some very powerful speeches indeed. So first of all, let's talk about ethos, taking questions about ethos now, or asking them rather. What do we think is something, sorry, how do we think that using ethos can benefit our speeches. If we build credibility with our audience or make it so that our audience wants to believe and trust us, how can that help us with our speeches? Diana.
Yes, can you repeat your question, please?
Yep. So how can building trust and credibility with your audience benefit you as a speech giver?
I think that building trust and it's a big benefit in the speeches, because it is like when you speak, you need the others to agree with you. Maybe that you say that the pineapple belongs to the pizza, and so you want to prove that idea in your speech, and you get strong reason on it, and so to make the audience to believe in you, and so it is a part. It's like it is a very it's a need, and to build trust your in your audience, and so if you don't build trust in your audience, maybe they will become boring while listening to you, because they are completely like opposite with your opinion, and so they will think that your speech is not important, and so they won't listen to it. And you all, and of course you, when you speak something, you need others to listen to you.
Very good. So Diana just hit all of the points there for ethos. So first of all, ethos is centered around building confidence from your audience. So if you can get them to to see you as trustworthy, knowledgeable, and honest, then you're going to you're going to put into your audience the thought of, I trust this person, I want to listen to what they say, and I want to believe what they say. So that's a very important thing to do to be able to write a good speech. That's it, Ben. Very good. Being honest helps your speech more. It does. Because as soon as you give your audience a reason to doubt you, they will doubt you. So be honest. Don't even tell a tiny itty bitty white lie. Always be honest with your speeches when you're speaking to the public. Because yeah, the first thing you give them that says, don't trust me, they will take it. And it takes forever to get that back once you've built it up with an audience. Okay, next we have pathos, which is emotions. So how can building an emotional connection with your audience, how can that benefit your speech? Mr. Michael, I haven't heard from you this evening.
So can I present my case to pineapple some pizza?
Make them cry about pineapple. But no, so how can building an emotional connection with your audience, how can that help you get your message across?
I think it is the part of you being honest so that they can trust you further on to believe maybe the statistic or your personal opinion about the problem. For example, you want to persuade them something, but it only have reasonable things to say about is morally right. So maybe they will believe your moral when you talk in an honest way, convey with your honest emotions.
Very good. Very good. So yes, again, building that emotional connection with the audience can help build that sense of trust that began from the ethos, which is developing your credibility. So pathos focuses on stirring emotions and creating a strong emotional connection between the speaker and the audience. If you use your pathos well, you can get your audience to feel things like empathy, compassion, or concern. So depending on what you're talking about, you can really take your audience on an emotional ride, make them feel what you want them to feel, so that they will believe you and trust you, and they'll want to take that journey with you. Okay, now I'm going to give you the other, what do we call it? I'm going to give you the other benefit of pathos. And that is, it gives you the ability to affect your audience's decision-making skills. How can that benefit you whilst giving a speech if you want to convince them about something? Mina, wake up and give me an answer.
Can you repeat the questions, please?
I can. So, how does the ability to affect your audience's decision-making skills through pathos, how can that benefit a speech giver?
So I think every three of these help you, because all the three of them are really helpful with you during a speech for each part.
Say that again, sorry, Mina.
So I think that the three of this helps you during a speech in different parts. So that's why you need all of this.
Very good. So the combination of pathos, ethos, and logos will help you with your speeches. Thank you. All right, let's try Tran Kan Lin. How do you think the ability to affect your audience's decision-making skills would help you deliver a speech? Oh, disappeared. Victoria, answer this question for me.
Which question?
How does the ability to affect your audience's decision-making improve the impact of your speech? I hear radio silence. Alice Lee, do you want to have a go at answering this question?
What do you say again?
How does the ability to affect your audience's decision-making, how can that benefit you when you're giving a speech?
Well, if your audience trusts you, and then they will like when you're debating something, and if the audience trusts you, and they will choose you as the winner. And also when you're giving a speech about something, and the goal is to raise something, and if the audience trusts you, and they will like help you make that goal happen.
Very good. Thank you, Luna's mom. So very good answer, Alice. So if you can affect their decision-making skills through their emotional reaction to your speech, then you really, really increase the chance of your audience either believing what you're saying or having them take the action you want them to take. So very good, Alice. And finally, let's talk about logos. Let's talk about logos. So logos is logic. So logic is things like the reasons behind you're saying something or the evidence that you use to get them to believe your arguments. So how can using logos or logic, how can that increase your speech giving abilities? Dui Tan.
So without logos, people will get confused and they won't know what you're talking about. So if they know about what you're talking and if it's interesting to them, they will keep hearing. Listening.
Very, very good. So Dui Tan just said that without logic, if your audience doesn't know what you're talking about, they won't be interested in your speech. Very good. I'll actually take that one step further and say, if your audience doesn't know what you're talking about, you can use logos to help educate them and teach them what you're talking about. And that way you stand a bigger chance of getting more people interested in what you're saying. Good answers, guys. Very good answers. Okay, so the next topic that we want to discuss are rhetorical devices. So the power of figures of speech. So I've got a list here of a few. Actually, what I will do. I'm not going to play the video because I'm not allowed to for copyright reasons, but I'm going to copy that link and I'm going to paste it in the chat box. And so that is a great video on, so yeah, that is a great video on, that's a great video on the basics of persuasive techniques or rhetorical devices, as they're also called. Okay, so rhetorical devices are, I've got a list here that I'll talk about quickly. Some of my debating students might recognize some of these techniques. I harped on about them an awful lot during class. Here we go. So these rhetorical devices, the main reason that we want to use them is to emphasize or bring attention to different parts of your speech. They work very well for written text as well, but they work even better for speeches where you can hear these techniques being used. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So the first one is called alliteration, and that is the repeating the repeating of sounds at the beginning of words. So if I was talking about, again, does pineapple belong on pizza? I might try and put the words pineapple and pizza right next to each other and say, I really enjoy eating pineapple pizza, because that pert sound, that same sound, that's going to help those words stick in your brain as we move on later in the speech. Another example of that might be pineapple pizza has terrific toppings on it. So you've got the PP and then the TT. Those two double sounds are going to help you remember pineapple pizza, terrific toppings, because it just has that good ring that sticks in your head when you say it. And that technique can be very good. It's called alliteration. Obviously, we've got evidence. So evidence is, of course, supporting information that helps you to convince people of your ideas. So that can come in the forms of, again, statistics, stories, examples, facts even. So if you find a fact on a website, you can use that as well. That's evidence. And that's very important for making yourself seem trustworthy. You've done your research, you've got your evidence to support your ideas. Which part would you like me to repeat, Diana? The bit about alliteration? Okay, so another example of, yeah, so the technique of alliteration. So that is where you repeat sounds at the beginning of words to make those words memorable. So I'll write the examples out. So by saying pineapple on pizza is a terrific topping, that's an example of alliteration, because we've got those two same sounding sounds. Just sent that to, my gosh, whenever you guys send me messages, it doesn't allow me to send to everyone in the meeting. So pineapple on pizza is a terrific topping. Those two similar sounds, and again, even there, similar sounds, that's going to make those words memorable. It's just how our brains work. It sounds almost like a rhyme, but not quite. I don't know the psychology behind it properly. I just know that it works. So if you think about it and you go, pineapple on pizza is a terrific topping. Pineapple on pizza is a terrific topping. And then you move on, you'll still remember that from when we spoke about it before. So these are just good techniques for you to use in your speech writing. That's what these are. So these are called rhetorical devices. They're techniques that we can use for our speech writing that's going to make our speech more memorable, and it's going to make it, it will make it more memorable. And if a speech is memorable, people are more likely to take action on what you want them to do or believe what you want them to believe. Yes, this is for the benefit of the audience. Yes. So the next technique is called exaggeration. So exaggeration is where you you make your arguments seem more important by way, what's another word for it? By overdoing it, I suppose. So if I was going to say, so if I was trying to get across to you the idea that I can think of a lot of reasons why pineapple on pizza is my favorite, and I wanted to exaggerate that, I would say something like, I can think of a million reasons why pineapple on pizza is my favorite. Now, clearly, I don't have 1 million reasons, but by saying that, I'm implying that I've got a lot of reasons and that it really is my favorite. So, no, it's not nonsense. It sounds like nonsense, but this stuff actually works. You would be amazed at how easy it is to. I don't want to use the word because it generally has a negative connotation, but you would be surprised how easy it is to actually manipulate an audience of people. It's actually very, very easy. And these techniques are a very strong way to do that. One more I'll give you is rhetorical questions. And a rhetorical question is a question that is so obvious that it doesn't need answering. So for example, if you were to ask me a question and the answer was yes, if I wanted to be maybe a little bit sarcastic or cheeky, instead of just answering yes to your question, I could ask something like, do human beings have 2 arms and 2 legs? So everybody knows that, yes, we have 2 arms and 2 legs. You don't need to go, yes, they do, because we all know it. It's that obvious. And so the reason for these, and so we can use it in a speech more on topic though. That was just an example. But we can use them in a speech. And if you ask someone a question that's so obvious they don't need to answer it, you can use it as a device to get them to think about what you're talking about. And so rather than going, yeah, it does, you get them thinking and they go, yeah, he's right. That is true. Or that is the case. And then the more you get them saying yes, the more you're going to get them to agree with you. So these rhetorical techniques or these rhetorical devices, they can add a lot of, not so much believability, because that's more to do with ethos in the beginning of the speech, but you can add a lot of depth to your speech using these techniques. So yeah, really check out that video link that I posted. Yes, except babies. Babies need to develop so that they can understand English or whatever language you're speaking before you use these techniques on them. But yeah, so these techniques really can influence an audience if you use them correctly, because they can further your ethos, your pathos, and your logos by persuasion, basically. You're persuading these people to believe what you're saying, and you're using these little devices to do that. Okay, so here's an out-of-class exercise. This isn't homework. It's not something I'm going to check on and demand that you hand in. But in regards to the to persuasive language and rhetorical devices, so what we've just talked about, I want you to look up some very famous speeches. You can find a lot of them on YouTube. Remember back to the first week of class, we had a lot of example speeches that we got you to watch. Yeah, exactly, Ben. I sent that in your either your debating class or your persuasive writing class, that video. But yeah, so yeah, I want you guys to watch and analyze some famous speeches and look for these rhetorical devices, look for the persuasive language. So look for the places where these people are trying to convince you of an idea, or if they're trying to convince you to take an action. That's persuasive language, and those are rhetorical devices. So this is more like a do this if you want to get better at this sort of stuff. Okay, so crafting a good introduction. So I'm just going to give you guys a few good tips about crafting a strong introduction for your speech, and then we'll move on to the body, and then we'll move on to the conclusion of a speech, and then that just about wraps the class up. So we talked about this a little bit earlier in the lesson, but a good tip for an introduction is to start off with a hook. Now, this can be a surprising fact or a thought-provoking or a rhetorical question. You could maybe use a quote from somebody famous, or you could tell an exciting story. So the goal of this is to grab your audience's attention. You quickly want to show your audience why the topic of your speech is important to your audience, or why it should matter to them. Maybe you could show how it relates to their interests, or maybe something that they need, or something that they're worried about. And another thing you can do is make them understand why they should care about what you're going to say. Because some people, they need convincing. So if you can convince them why this is important, and you get them again to agree, then you'll capture them. You have them as your audience, and they'll listen to what you say. State your purpose. So very clearly and very obviously tell them what is the main message of your speech. Let them know what they can expect to learn, or what they can gain from listening to you. And this is going to basically tell them where they can expect to go with your speech. Again, you want to establish credibility, so using your ethos. So establish credibility. That's whether you share your qualifications, or share your experience, or your expertise. Why should they believe you? And this is going to help to build trust with your audience. Give them a preview of all the main points you expect to talk about in your speech. So by doing this, you will, where is it here? So yeah, by doing this, you're going to help them know what to expect. Keep it concise. So keep it short and sweet and to the point. Don't just blather on for ages and ages and ages. Adapt to your audience. So consider who you're talking to. Consider the things they like, the things they don't like, and try and work more towards the things you know they like. Because if you know that your audience likes something and you do it, you know that you're going to have their attention. And finally, time it right. Be mindful of the time limits you've got for your speech. Your introduction should not take up a huge amount of your speech. So keep it short and keep it to the point. So that was the, we're just going to go straight to conclusions. So for a conclusion, some important tips to note. You want to summarize your key points. So what are the main arguments you've presented in your speech? Remind your audience what those are, because you might have said a lot throughout your speech. So you want to make sure that you just remind them of those main points. Restate your message. So remember in the introduction where you told them the main message of your speech, remind them again in the conclusion. offer them what we call closure. So allow them to not leave the speech still wondering and still having questions. Because if you leave them with too many questions that you didn't answer, they're just going to say, oh, well, he just brought up a whole bunch of stuff and then didn't really tell us anything about it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But if you answer all the right questions in your speech, then you will, you're again coming back to ethos. You'll convince them that you're trustworthy and that they should believe you. But you still want to leave a couple of questions unanswered, maybe one or two. So that gives them enough to seek you out again and come and find you to ask more questions about your issue. I'll give you a couple more. So connect back to the introduction. So in debating, we call this the linking sentence, where you explain how your speech or how your argument connects to the topic of the debate. Same in speech giving. You want to make sure that you remind them of your introduction. Go back to that hook, that catchy quote or that story that you gave them. Go back to that. And finally, address the so what. So what happened? What happens when somebody tells you something that you're not interested in? You sit there and you go, so what? Why should I care? So what? Answer that so what. Tell them why they should be interested in what you have to say. Actually, one more, avoid new information. In your conclusion, don't introduce anything new. Just remind them of everything you've spoken about. Okay, so we've really covered a lot of information tonight, guys. You've done fantastic for holding out with me this long. So I'm just going to go through the list of people with their hands up now. And I'm going to answer we're going to answer the question, what's something that you've learned about how to structure your speech tonight? Start with you, Stella.
Can you speak your question again, please?
No worries. What is something that you've learned from class tonight?
So today at class, I think that today I learned a lot of things about like fixing things like about the stuffs I eat. For example, if I like tell the things like use the easier vocabulary to talk, they can like, and I'm not very sure about this, but the only thing I can learn about this most at night today is how to separate all of our speeches in a good way and how to speak them properly so the other persons can agree with that.
Very good, Stella. Thank you. So how to separate and organize all of the different parts of your speech. Very well done. Sarah, what's something that you've learned from tonight?
Well, tonight I've learned some of how to organize my speech and how to end my speech and some insight in speech structures.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. So how to write a good conclusion for your speech and how to structure your speech well. Very well done. Ooh.
Thank you.
Sunny, what's something that you've learned this evening?
Tonight I learned about how to organize my speech, how importance of introductions, body and conclusions, and I know how to write a speech in the right way.
Very good. So it sounds like you learned a lot this evening. So why the introduction, the conclusion, and the body are very important, how to structure it. Very well done. Okay. There we go. Ken, welcome.
Okay, teacher, it's my first time to speak in this class. And today I want to show you what I learned tonight. So the first thing I learned is that we should try to answer frequently asked questions in speech so that the audience don't wonder and don't trust you. They know everything. And I learned to make exaggeration, alliteration, and to structure the topic. I have a clear introduction, a clear body paragraph, and a clear conclusion. Also, I learned to make an emotional connection with the audience. Thank you, teacher.
Terrific. Thank you for your input, Ken. Well done. Okay, Tom looks like his head's about to explode if I don't let him speak right now. So go on, Tom, tell me something that you learned tonight.
So I have a lot of things that I want to say that I learned. Firstly, I have learned how to organize my speech, unlike my crusty, dusty, musty, messy speech in the past. Secondly, I have learned about the tips of speaking. And lastly, I have learned how to cry in Italian. Also, when would you like to put pineapple on pizza? Mamma mia, this is bad.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Oh, that was amazing. Luna, what's something that you learned tonight?
Yes,
What is something that you learned from class tonight?
I learned how important it is to introduce. I learned how important it is to have an introduction in the speech, or else the audience will get confused about who we are and things like that.
Very good. I'm glad you learned things like that. Okay. Diana,
Why are you asking me again?
I didn't think I was. Diana, what's something that you learned from class tonight?
Yeah, I think that tonight I did learn many things. First is how to organize your speech. Speak clearly and why it is important to build trust in the audience. And I also learned about how to make more memories in the. It's like to make the audience remember your speech. It's having the first word of the words, like pineapple pizza, make me really like remember your speech today. Yeah, and I also think about the first part. No, the part you told me in the middle. You said you told me about how it is important to organize correctly about the conclusion and the introduction and the body parts of the speech. We need to add firstly, secondly, third, or finally, and so on, to make your speech more clearly so that the audience will like know what is this part like and what is that part like. And the conclusion is important because when you have done a very long speech such as 10-minute speech, you need a conclusion to summarize all your ideas you gave the audience so that they will remember your speech longer, or they will remember the first part of your speech.
Very good, Diana. Thank you very much. It sounds like you really learned a lot tonight. Whoop, sorry, I meant to lower your hand, not ask you to unmute. Emily, hello.
Okay, so I think that I learned about how to write a good speech and explains about how our logo such as enhances audience comprehensions and like explains for the people to understand our speech.
Very good. Thank you very much, Emily. Tran Kan Lin, what's something that you learned this evening?
This evening, I have learned how to organize my speech. I learned about ethos, pathos, and logos. I learned how to say things that make sense. Like when we talk about pineapples on pizza, does it belong together? While we say, this morning I ate I ate sushi, and this it doesn't make sense anything. Also, I learned how to remember our speech, like we could use the same word like pizza or pineapple on pizza are totally terrific like that. I also learned about in the conclusion we're going to how to summarize everything we have said so everyone and like the listener will understand well.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take a couple more and then we'll wrap it up. Rabbit.
Today I also learned a lot, and I also learned how to the steps to make a good speech, and I also learned that pineapple pizza is very yummy, but I haven't even tried it yet. So I will try to go to Italy to eat it someday because I am starving right now.
Very, very good. Thank you, Rabbit. And finally, Jessica. Hello, Jessica. What's something that you learned in class tonight?
Just tonight I have learned a lot. I have learned that we can learn a lot of speech that which is make it a sense, and we write speech. And please please and ask more, blah blah blah.
Very, very good. Okay. You had your hand up before, but then you disappeared, Victoria. What happened to you? You went away and you come back all of a sudden.
Okay, so in here I study and learn about a lot of things today. I learned how to write a good speech. I learned how to make some of the points more clear for the gentlemen need to hear, and a lot more things. And also, I want to ask you that when you said about the topic that are pineapples on pizza, I was very surprised that sometimes on YouTube they said Italy sometimes don't want pineapples on pizza either.
That's right.
I was very amazed.
As we heard from Tom's terrific impression, a lot of Italians do not like pineapple on pizza.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Oh, bless. Okay, thank you very much, guys. So we've gone over some of the main takeaways, asking you guys what you learned this evening. I'm going to put the homework in the Zalo group for you guys. And next lesson, just to let you guys in on it, next lesson, we're going to learn about impromptu speaking. So impromptu just means without preparation. So the kind of speaking, the kind of speech that you learned about tonight is a speech you would give with a lot of preparation. So a lot of planning, a lot of thinking about ideas, putting it together, structuring it well, including your ethos, pathos, and logos, lots of things like that. But for an impromptu speech, it might just be, okay, for example, Emily, in 10 minutes, I need you to speak to the class for 20 minutes about your favorite book to read. And without preparation, you just have to speak about your book. So that is impromptu speaking. Don't worry, I'm not actually going to make you give a 20-minute speech right now. That was just an example. But yeah, impromptu speaking is without any preparation. So that's what we're going to cover next week. Thank you guys very much for sticking around to the end of this class tonight. You've done great. You've done super great with your attention this evening. You should all be very happy. And just a reminder, I will put the homework in the yeah, I'll put the homework in the Zalo group. Just one last question. So Ben has asked, how can I stop an Italian yelling when I say I like pineapple on pizza? I don't know. You would have to ask Tom because of his brilliant Italian impression that he did. Okay, so that brings us to the end of class tonight. I am going to post. Would you go? Yes, I will. So over the last couple of weeks, some of my wonderful students here have been sending me, they've been taking screenshots of my gallery view or screenshots of my camera, and they've been turning them into beautiful works of art. We've had some students request that I show you some of these beautiful works of art that I have been transformed into. So I would now like to take the opportunity to show you some of these pictures. And I have dubbed these pictures an ode to continued perfection. So this first one we see was done by Alex, and Alex turned me into a tree full of 5 monkeys. Just are they not the most beautiful monkeys you have ever seen? Alice decided to give me a few cocktails and a pair of cool sunnies and send me off to the beach. Artist unknown, someone decided to turn me into a cool party guy. Lily just took a picture of beauty and just made it even more beautiful. Like, look at that. Look at that. Just absolutely.
Teacher, can I leave early, please?
Yes, class is finished. If you need to leave, you can. Goodbye. Luna decided to give me a funky hat and shower me with gold coins. She also decided to give me a rich guy mustache and throw more money around. Someone decided to give me beautiful rosy cheeks. Ruby decided to give me big red luscious lips and a pair of glasses. Sunny decided to give me red rosy cheeks, big red luscious lips, and red eyeliner. And she said that picture is cute. I agree. Sunny also decided to send me to the movies. So I've got my 3D glasses, my Coca-Cola, and my popcorn. Sunny also decided, I think, to turn me into a fox. Tim decided to turn me into the bad guy from Sonic. So I got the big red mustache and the big red eyebrows. Victoria decided to give me a second set of eyebrows and big blue cheeks. Vika decided to turn me into Harry Archer. So I'm going to go off and fight Lord Voldemort. And also decided to turn me into a scuba diver. So those are just some of the wonderful works of art that you lovely students have decided to do. So I thank you for those. So thank you very much for your attendance and your attention this evening, guys. I'll post the homework in Zalo now. Oh, Lordy. And I'll see you all next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night. And I've
Good
made up a
night.
no laugh sign for you.
Pardon?
I've made up a no laugh sign for you.
Good luck with that. If I find something funny, I cannot help but laugh.
Oh, I have it on my background right here.
Where's this? No, there it is. How could you do that to me, Alice? Telling me I'm not allowed to laugh. You make me cry. I ate pasta for breakfast. Is that a bird? Did you just draw bird poop on my shoulder?
I love that one the most.
That's
I
so
did.
mean. That's so mean. And then I
The
see,
bird did. I just drew the bird. I didn't do the poop.
well, I mean, if you drew the bird, you had to draw the poop because a drawn on bird's not going to poop because it's drawn on. Oh, good.
It's gonna be a very
no.
popular meme.
No, Michael, I'm not going to send you a picture of me looking up because I am terrified of what you will do to it.
Advice to Michael, just pick when Mr. Archer is like looking up, like thinking, and then you can put like
No,
snap a
from now on,
screenshot, and that would
I am just
be
going to look down. I'm just going to look down now for all future classes. Oh my goodness.
Slay Queen.